Quinn, welcome back to the Ride Boundless Podcast.
Hey, buddy. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you, man. So as you know, it's May, Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people always reach out to me and ask me advice on. As a matter of fact, I just got off a phone call right now, which I don't know, maybe I'll get your opinion later, but on insurance. I got a buddy of mine who's asking, hey, who would you recommend for insurance?
Right.
And I have more of a bundle deal with one of those companies. But anyways, but I want to talk to you because you are the most safest person that I know.
Don't tell let's not talk to my wife about that, but yeah.
But
yeah.
that's part of what you teach.
Yes.
Let's bring up your background again and your experience on the motorcycle world.
Yeah, I mean, the short version of it is, riding and racing since I was a little kid, dirt bikes, and that delved into other components of off-road stuff, desert racing, motocross, and some dirt track and schooling and some trials stuff. So a lot of kind of eclectic off-road based stuff. And then like most kids, right around 16, got my license, got a street bike, started doing that stuff, got into some track clinics and track days. Fast forward into late 2000s, became a motor cop after I was a police officer for a while. And anyone who grows up racing motorcycles, you become a motor cop and you realize, hey, wait a minute, you can be paid to go to these rodeos and competitions. Like, wait a minute, I can have a job, essentially. It's not like you're getting paid to compete, but in some ways you're getting a lot of assistance to get out there and compete. So
Incentives.
Incentives. So that led to doing a lot of that competition stuff. And fast forward to almost 20 years as a police officer. I retired. I have a job now as I'm the national brand ambassador for BMW Police Authority, and I work with Total Control Training. They own a basic rider safety program in California, Pennsylvania, some other states, but also have intermediate and advanced. We do track clinics. I'm a track clinic instructor, an adventure bike instructor, and then we also have a specific Total Control Advanced Motor School where I'm a lead instructor. Working with, that's specifically motor officers, where we take a lot of the slow speed, tight stuff that we do that I've taught and that I compete at for BMW, and we bring that more into higher speed, body position stuff, higher speed braking, so just higher performance stuff at speed is what I do with Total Control. So that's everything I do now is really motorcycle centric, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's the dream.
So I ride it, I live it. I still race motocross. I just my wrist is recovering from eating it pretty hard at Glen Helen Raceway last week. It was kind of muddy. And the next weekend I have a vintage race down at Barona Oaks for the weekend. So I got a really trick 80s YZ490 Yamaha that I've put way more money into than needs to be put into it.
Like normal?
Yeah, like normal. You know how that is. Everything's a rabbit hole, So it made sense to buy some beautiful Öhlins forks for it that are worth more than the whole motorcycle. But
of course.
Whatever. The wife doesn't.
But it's for safety. It's for safety.
It's for safety.
It's for safety.
I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing these days. Motorcycles. Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's no point in your life you would have found yourself here, but you're here. Would you say this is the ultimate dream job? I mean, like, are you loving this?
Well, I love it. So just really quick, because I've had a lot of coffee, so I'm going to ramble for a second. So I grew up, after I got out of school, I was a sales and marketing guy, traveled around the world with a cosmetic manufacturer. So I was an executive in the sales and marketing space. Don't ask me how I became a cop from there. It's a long and sordid tale. But
that was on the last podcast.
But having done the police thing and the motorcycles, now this brand ambassador position, it enables me to kind of meld two things that I love. I love motorcycles, but I also, I forgot to mention, so I write a weekly column, Motor School with Quinn Redeker, in Rider Magazine. We've been doing that now 2 years, and those two things really are a combination of my passions, which is I love interacting with people. I do enjoy writing and telling a story, and that's, I think, the sort of the sales and marketing side. Because as with a Total Control Training, I'm also their business development guy for Lee Parks Design. So it really brings all those things together that I really like. Motorcycle riding is fantastic, and it speaks to kind of the physicality component of challenging myself and discovering new techniques and evolving as a rider. and then all these other components, the writing, the marketing, the interaction with people brings for me all those other components that you don't just get from seat of the pants, ride. So I love those two things, So when my phone rings, it's about something, I have some of these guys have to tell you, they'll go, Quinn, I watched one of your videos, a police motor training. So I watched one of your videos and I had a question about blah, blah, blah. It didn't really make sense. And I'll just set up a Zoom call. I'm like, call me, let's talk. Yeah. And they'll say, I really appreciate you spending the time. I'm like, what time? We're talking motorcycles. How hard is this going to be for me? We're going to burn an hour shooting the breeze about motorcycles. So every call is a good call. It's all about that. So I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. There's a few things I want to talk about safety and gear.
Yeah.
But I want to start off with like the basics, and then I want to talk about the technology, because technology now is insane compared to what we had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, etc. I mean, 30 years ago, most people didn't want to wear a helmet.
And there are still places around the country where the helmet law is not enforced. There is no helmet law.
There is no helmet law. And then you got Florida, which is, Florida's rule, right?
What's that?
If you have insurance, you don't have to wear a helmet. If you don't have insurance, you got to wear a helmet.
Wow, that's weird.
That's very weird. And I mean, some of the excuses or some of the laws for that is, but no lane splitting, go figure.
Right.
But some of the understanding of that is just the humidity. The humidity and wearing a helmet is just, it's overbearing. So that's why they kind of found this loophole now.
Yeah, tell that to the Vegas Metro Motors that wear vests and all their gear and stand at intersections for 2 hours directing traffic for an event.
I'm sorry, just to give a quick shout out to those guys. I remember I left the casino one time and it was like 3 a.m. I had a house out there. I left at 3 a.m. and it was December, January, and it was like 3 a.m. and you had the motor cops on Harley Davidsons. And like at 3 a.m. just posted up, and I was like, that's hardcore.
Well, funny enough, it's so hot.
It's probably but it was free. It's hot in the summer, but it's freezing. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, it was freezing. It was probably, I'm not even kidding, it was probably 20 degrees, 30 degrees.
Yeah, they have a very robust motor unit. And I've known a lot of those guys over years in the competition space. They're instructor cadre, super beast mode guys, like super legit, awesome riders. And that whole motor unit's really, really solid. But what's funny is, we all know in Las Vegas, it can get pretty damn hot, right? So when they have motor schools in the summer, it's at night. They teach. Yeah. So you're going to motor school in the middle of the night, and it's still probably 90 degrees out.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So, I've just seen some of those guys work in traffic at events, and just like, God bless, man. I don't know how you do it.
I especially with all the...
I'd go climb in a car and call my mom.
Yeah.
Whine a little bit.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle that. So,
and with 10 million visitors a year,
right?
It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People following around the rules and laws and
yeah.
So with the safety gear, I like to start off with, especially like the younger kids or the younger people. I've seen a lot of people save up money, buy a bike. Now they have their bike, but they didn't save any money for gear.
Sure.
They didn't buy the basics. So do you have a checklist of like minimum requirements?
Well, for all of us that have hit the deck, I think that pretty much is the answer key. I grew up, again, racing motorcycles. So having a helmet on was never a conversation when I got out of the street because I've been knocked out with a really nice helmet on. I know what that is. So you would never in your right mind, because you can connect dots. They're there for you. So I would say probably one of the biggest things, feet. I mean, your feet. I kicked a pine cone one time. I was on a R1 Yamaha riding up through like Big Bear or something. And I just thought it would be kind of fun. I was having a great time riding with my buddies. And I just saw a pine cone. I just kind of put my boot down and kicked it. Well, I didn't really realize I was going like 40 miles an hour. And it tore the whole nose off the boot that I was wearing, which was just a cool boot. It wasn't a riding boot.
Yeah.
And my foot was all bloody. I was so happy it didn't tear my toes off. That was the last time I did that. More importantly, though, and obviously, dumb move. What are you doing? Don't put your hand out and feed the animals. Okay, inside the tram at all times. So I should have done that with my boot. But
so just to be clear, your first advice of safety is don't kick.
Don't kick pine cones.
Okay.
And these things look like pineapples. I don't even know what I was thinking. I was, you know.
But you know how many people think about kicking a pine cone?
Do not kick a pine cone. If you even think it'd be kind of cool to reach out and touch something or kick something, just don't, because you have no idea. You don't realize you're going so fast. Even at 30, you could like take a finger off. Just don't do it, please. So boots are huge. Pants are big too, but when we talk about, this is just my thinking, when we talk about pants, we're talking about more abrasion resistance than we are really kind of hitting the ground, impact. Yeah. A helmet, definitely impact. Gloves, again, abrasion. So pants, gloves, boots, helmet. Jacket, of course, abrasion and impact. So what did I just say? ATGAT, right? All the gear all the time. I would say, though, for somebody who's on a budget, and they're like, well, I think the tricky part with the person you just described is, why are they riding a motorcycle? If they're riding a motorcycle because it's cool, and it's fun, gear and safety isn't really a consideration that's really, I don't think, on the radar. So in that capacity, I think you're going to find somebody that's riding in very minimalistic equipment, maybe a helmet, probably not even gloves, maybe a jacket, probably not boots. So in that case, I think, you got to be careful with how much you push safety gear. And we talk about minimal standards, just minimum, and if it was just bare minimum, boots, helmet, jacket. That would what I would say, like minimum. And gloves. You got to have gloves on. And again, how do I know? Well, especially in the police stuff, people don't realize, you see us in cones and we're in first gear. Well, my bike does just about 40 in first gear, and I've lost the front end in first gear. Yeah. I'm sliding across the pavement at 40 miles an hour. So good gloves are huge.
Do you think, I've mentioned this statistic that I feel like I've made up. At least it's my statistic. I have nothing to back it up.
Then it's good.
But they say 68.34% of statistics are made up anyways.
There you go.
but I strongly believe with 20 something years of riding, I 95% is rider error, which is of accidents. And,
sure.
And I still believe that. And not only that, but mentioning up all the gear, do you think the gear obviously protects you, but do you think it also mentally is changing the way you ride too?
So that's an interesting question, and I thought that. So any of you that race, especially off-road, we're all good and fine. And when those goggles go on my helmet, it's like race time. I'm a different person as soon as people say, once the helmet comes on. But for me, it's once the goggles are on, I'm in go mode. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna ride like I'm on a track. I'm gonna beat you. I do think, I don't want to say it's a false sense of security, but I argue. So where you're going with that is, okay, right now, if I was in shorts and a t-shirt, I'm gonna be careful. Now I put on a full road race suit and I'm a little bit more emboldened, feel safer. I might ride a little more assertively. Right? Is that a...
No, actually, I mean, I'm asking you, what do you think, how people think? I'll be honest, for me, when I gear up, I mean, it's like, if you see somebody gear up, you automatically know they're going to ride a little bit better. They're more experienced. They're more alert.
I don't think that, except I would say, if I was to see an older person in full gear on a pretty expensive motorcycle, I know they're probably not gonna go rip through a canyon and raise hell. They're not gonna do 170 down the freeway with those videos that you see, these people just going nuts. So I would say, and that's probably unfairly profiling based on my experience. Yeah. But I'm not necessarily just gonna say, okay, this person's in gear and this person's kind of not as much in gear. I'm gonna look at the totality of it. What kind of gear are they wearing? How much did they spend? If they got $7,000 in gear and a $40,000 motorcycle, they're probably doing a little better in life and probably need to go to work on Monday and probably aren't going to be too big of risk takers. Probably have a family based on their age. Those are the things, if you put 10 people in front of me and I was to label the most risky to the...
Right, I got a funny one. Let's say this. Harley Davidson Dyna,
Okay.
24-year-old dude wearing Vans,
Right.
ripped jeans,
Yeah.
you know, some bullshit leather belt, and you know, a helmet and some old gloves. What kind of riding do you think that guy's gonna do? You think he's gonna ride aggressive or careful?
Well, I would obviously, right, profiling that guy, we would say what I would expect that he might try to emulate. Now, if he's not a good rider, then he's just looking the part, and, you know, and that's that.
And that's that.
Funny enough, though, just to push back on that a little bit, because, you know, sometimes it's, you know, it's not what you think. I've got buddies that are stunters, and they ride Harleys, and they do, they're gymnasts on these bikes.
Yeah.
And you put them in a parking lot and they'll just smoke everything and they'll ride crazy. But once they get on the street, it's game off, because that's not where they want to push. They're not going to get their yayas out in a street environment because they know they can't fully explore their abilities in that space. So, and it's the same thing if you watch a fast racer come off the track, they're not ripping around in the pits because that's not where they're, you know, there's nothing, they're just in a straight line trying to go to their truck, whatever they're doing. So I will say there are those guys too that, yeah, they're ballsy, high performance, push the envelope, but not in traffic, because that's not really where they can do it fully, even if not even saying what's legal and what's not legal.
Right.
By and large, you know, I think there are a lot of those posers, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, of course.
And I'd say 9 out of 10 of them are that.
Oh, for sure.
You know, but show me somebody that's in their, you know, low to mid 20s who's speeding on a motorcycle. I mean, it's you know, take a look at military bases. You can have your M1, and if you're a Marine, for example, even though you're licensed, they make you go through a whole other program, and you have to have other licensing and training and certification to ride a motorcycle if you're an enlisted person, because it's, those guys are not adverse to risk. And a motorcycle puts you there right away, and they're getting killed. So many military guys are dying on motorcycles. So, but I think
it was banned for a while for Marines especially.
Well, it's
like
not banned
90s.
now. But like Camp Pendleton, for example, I have a friend who runs their motorcycle safety program, and even though these guys are licensed, they have to go through this program. It's a little bit different. In fact, not to plug it, but June 5th they have a safety day. And I think you're going to maybe be able to come down to Camp Pendleton, and I'll be doing some demos, and we'll be talking about riding and rider safety. But I think that's just inherent in somebody. I think of me when I was riding a street bike at 17, 18. And, you know, me and my buddies get together and say, wow, how are we still here? Based on all the stupid things, right, that you did. If it doesn't kill you, hopefully you'll learn something from it. So I've learned a lot.
It makes you stronger with a question mark?
Well, it gives you scars, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I know that. So where I was going, though, was to say that sometimes for me, more equipment makes me feel safer. And when I feel safer, I feel like I can push harder. And when I push harder, I'm going faster, the thresholds are greater, and the probability for things to go south are greater. I don't really think that way on the street. I definitely think that way on a track. But I do believe that that mentality can be in people that say, well, you know, I'm just wearing a t-shirt, I better be careful, I'm just going to get groceries, or I'm going to gear up this stuff, I have an airbag, this stuff's going to work really good for me. You know what, I'm safe, I have this little cocoon of safety. I'm gonna haul, you know, I got really grippy tires so I can push harder, I can go faster. You know, that's the tricky part. And hear me now, I'm not saying training in any way is a bad thing. But I would say in the same way that if you take a mid-level rider who knows he's or her is a mid-level rider, and you suddenly magically give them skills to be up here, I believe there's a risk to now have a false sense of security in your own ability to navigate the environment at a higher speed or in a more challenging way than if you were to just be at a 5, live at a 5, and ride like you're a 5 and be careful. So that speaks to the skill versus judgment question,
right,
where I've seen far better riders skill-wise have far more problems than others that are much lower skilled because their judgment becomes a little bit more skewed with their increased abilities.
Yeah.
And I found that's kind of a weird thing.
That's interesting, yeah.
It's just a weird idea, and that's been my experience with some people. It's like, wow, that person's really, really good. They know they're really, really good, and they ride out on the street like they're really, really good. And all those things are inviting a higher, rate of crashing, of problems, of hitting oil, of whatever it is. That stuff's happening quicker now, and I don't know if that's better. If I could be a 10 rider, but still ride like I'm a 5, no, I'm really safe, right?
Right.
But if you're going to push the threshold, right? If you put grippier tires and all you do is go faster, you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You haven't really made the safety envelope is no different.
Yeah.
Arguably, it's worse because now you're carrying more momentum. So, just that. Food for thought.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. In your opinion, what makes a good rider a rider?
First and foremost, judgment. And I will say this. I would rather ride with a group of well-intentioned, good judgment people that we're not hauling ass. They don't know road racing technique. They can't drag their knee. They've never done it. They're a little uncomfortable, splitting lanes. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to just tone it down a little, and we're going to cruise a little bit, and we're going to get there safely. Way rather ride with those people than former pro racers and blah, 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 blah. Even if they're careful for their own ability, we're still pushing. When I ride off-road with groups, I usually pull up the rear. And a lot of people are like, no, you can go ahead, go, give your yaws, like, go. It's like, no, we're not racing.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, let's just chill. And I have the same kind of ideology when I'm out on the street. Do not look to me as being the guy that needs to pick up the speed. So what makes a safe rider? Yes, if you know all these really cool things, you're going to be better in different situations. If we come around a corner and all there is gravel or there's diesel on the ground, and I'm going to stand the bike straight up, I'm going to ease into the brakes, and I'm going to go right off the road into the dirt and smack into that little embankment like it's a berm, and I'm going to be fine because you have the optics for that and you have the muscle memory for those types of things. You're going to be good. And that's great. But if you're really good and you do have that muscle memory, the chances are we're going to be hauling around that corner so fast, you're not even going to have time to react to the diesel. You're going to go down and out, So, and this is not a definitive, this is what I believe. But I will say, generally speaking, in my experience, slow, smooth, safe, get there in one piece mentality trumps skill. This guy knows what he's doing. He can handle anything and everything and all the time. Because the reality is you can't handle anything all the time. Buddy of mine, really awesome guy out of Canada, former motor. And this is it's not a beautiful tale. He's riding, one of the better riders you'd find. So he's being careful. He's at a 4-way stop. Wife's on the back, going through the stop sign. Drunk driver in an SUV hits him, kills him, rips her leg off. I think she's lived at this point. But there's an example of shit happens, right? It just happens. So the idea that all that skill is going to trump this environment because now you can navigate it, you better still ride. I still ride extremely careful. Now, not afraid where you're hesitant and now you could put yourself in a bad situation. That's different. But, man, judgment trumps everything all the time, in my opinion.
So, no, it makes sense.
This is my public service announcement. Judgment.
No, it makes sense. Is there safety courses you would recommend? I mean, they're all great, but like in California, what safety schools or...
Well,
and are you a fan of safety schools?
Yes, so absolutely. More training is good. The one thing, so the coffee's getting me thinking a lot about that question. So obviously what school you go to is going to be dependent on what your skill level is now, right? So for example, I wouldn't go take a basic rider safety course, not because I'm too good for it. In fact, I have gone to one not too long ago with the secretary of our police chief. Her boyfriend wouldn't go with her because he thought it was not cool. And I'm like, I'll go with you. But I'm not going to learn anything. I'm not going to spend my money probably to go to a basic class at this point. So I will just plug Total Control. We have an intermediate and advanced. We have an advanced track clinic. I love these track clinics. The guy that owns the company, Lee Parks, former national road racer, he's a rock star rider. He wrote the book Total Control. And what I like about this guy's philosophy is, I respect that he came up with a lot of this from racing, and I think racing is all about best practices. You know, if your process is better than mine, odds are you're probably going to win, especially in motorcycles when I think, 80% of it is rider for the most part. So I do like that. We go on track, and the nice thing about a track, most people think, well, it means I'm racing. No. What it means is you can learn how to do things like, where are my braking markers? How should I look through this turn? Where do I start to turn? Where's my apex? Where should I be focusing on my exit? So we speak about things like that, about trail braking, suspension setup. So many people buy these really cool bikes that have compression and rebound. They have high-speed compression damping. What the hell is that? Well, we break all that stuff down because that's what's kind of funny about modern technologies. You have all this stuff. I mean, think about how much stuff your phone does or your watch, your program that you probably have no idea. Now, that's not to say there aren't people that know all this stuff inside and out. They do, and they fully benefit from it. But like, I got this really cool Garmin. It's the Epix Pro 2. These are about $1,000. It does a lot of cool stuff. I think I use it for like 3 things. And it does all this other stuff. So your motorcycle, in the same way, especially suspension, does all this really cool stuff. And we don't really know how to navigate it. So that's one of the things that I think is cool about our advanced class as we delve into the suspension piece. If there was one idea for getting better as a rider, regardless of what you do, I think off-road in any capacity, whether that's motocross is a little dicey because with jumps and it's timing and rhythm and you can really get hurt. But a dirt track school, I think by and large, best pound for pound bang for your buck, because
that makes sense.
You're going to learn how to slide a motorcycle. You're going to understand kind of the geometry of the bike and where your body should be positioned. Huge. Yeah. So one thing, dirt, period.
Yeah. Have you done, I think I asked you this, Rawhide?
Rawhide is an adventure bike clinic.
Yeah.
I've not done Rawhide. I've ridden with some of those guys.
Intense.
Yeah, so
it's pretty intense. You get back on the road and you're like, oh my God, like after that class, like it's pretty good too. That's another one that's, because he's got the little lake and the river and you drive right through the water, and then he's got like a 10 or 20 foot drop, and it's all these, it's dirt.
It's dirt.
It's dirt, but it's more adventure bike focused.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you. So I've done some adventure bike stuff, and when you put and I love adventure bikes, but really they're street bikes. Kind of modified in certain ways. Now, I'm sure people would argue with me on that, but to me, an off-road bike is as light as it can be, high performance, blah, blah, blah. An adventure bike, weighs 4 of what a regular off-road race bike is. But you take that and you put it in an off-road environment, and man, that is a big girl trying to do some stuff. So a school like Rawhide would be fantastic, not only if you have an adventure bike and you ride it on the street and you feel pretty comfortable. Go take a day at, say, a Rawhide, and where you're sliding, where you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You're going to learn what your bike can do. You're going to learn about things, what you can do. Then you're going to go on the street and go, oh, I see why off-road people get on the street and they go, oh yeah, off-road's the key. Because once you get on the street and you realize the amount of traction you have, the amount of ability you have to move the bike around compared to the dirt, and you have that dirt skill, you're going to get on the street and it's just going to feel like
glue.
It's going to feel like 50% as challenging as it was before.
No.
And that's fantastic. When I encounter stuff on the road on my street bike, 2 things. One, I can slide my bike around. I'm not in condition black in a crash. The second thing is, though, when you have an off-road mind, this is the paved road. The paved road is not the road. It's all road. This is just paved and that is not paved. So in my mind, from a collision avoidance standpoint,
right,
I see a problem and I see the dirt. Not because the dirt means crash or the dirt means bad. The dirt's just the dirt. It's just all part of the same mental math going on. Do I need to be on this part of the concrete, or should I just drop over here into the dirt? So when I ride, I'm constantly assessing the dirt. Is there a drop off? Is there a rain rut? Are there big rocks? Is there an incline? What kind of dirt is it? You will gain a lot of skill just from riding in the dirt. You know, you could take an off-road racer and put 10 different types of dirt in there, from sort of a clay to a sand and everything in between and loam. And they'll be like, yeah, this is this, crusty on top. You'll get a little grip on the bottom. So when you start to ride it, you're kind of going to learn how your bike's going to react to that. Well, now you're on the street and you look to the side at the dirt, you're going to just look at that and get some level of sense of how your bike's going to react when you drop into it.
Right.
So to me, that's another huge advantage of off-road, is that's always in my brain. I'm not done when the concrete ends. I'm just going into the dirt brain, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Let's talk about gear now. We talked about the basics of what we should get, but now let's talk about what we should look for in gear.
Yeah, so I could tell you kind of what the impetus for why I picked why I wear what I wear. Understand that I have different gear. So when I do track clinics, I just wear a full road race suit. I have a company called Mythos. I have a beautiful one-piece kangaroo road race suit that Mythos built, and it's amazing. I do supermoto on a supermoto bike at go-kart tracks and other tracks around. So that's a full suit, but you're not walking around in it. You're not going to the mall in it. You're not going to go meet your buddies and grab lunch with it. And it's a nightmare. So when I do police stuff, I'm doing a couple things. I'm doing clinics, demos, I'm competing, I'm training, but then I'm also off bike, I'm walking around, talking, maybe traveling. So I need dexterity on the bike, but I need protection, and I also need comfort in all day wearing the boot. So I've been hunting over years. I buy this boot or that boot, and it was either just not enough protection, or it was so much protection that it just had I just couldn't modulate the rear. There's a lot of trailing on the rear that I do, and I couldn't walk around. I get sores on my shin. So this is a company called Indy Ridge. Indy Ridge makes these. I bought these. These are not the pair that I bought, but I originally bought these, and I was reading about them, and the thing I liked, so Indy Ridge, if I'm accurate, I believe, their tagline is the art of risk. And it's all motorcycle-centric stuff. But what's kind of crazy about this company is the idea they designed. The guy that owns this company was like an art director. He's an artist. And he said, okay, well, I'm a motorcycle guy. I'm going to build gear that looks cool. And by the way, right, it happens to be CE rated protective riding gear. But don't worry about that, because it just looks cool. Go riding. Let me worry about protecting you. You just worry about looking cool and being comfortable in my stuff. That was my experience when I first got a pair of these boots.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I can ride pretty well in these. Oh, they're CE rated. So they have protection components to them, both in the bottoms, the toe, the ankles. And when I reached out to him, it was after I had gone down pretty hard in these things, and I pinned these things between the crash guard on my big police bike and the ground at about 25. And the boot got ground pretty good, but it worked fine. I was fine. It just, cosmetically, and I was fine. Yeah. And I laughed. I was like, this is what I need. And to give you an idea, I stopped. So when I fly to go to a clinic or whatever I'm doing, I stopped packing these in my checking or my carry-on, and I just wear them on my feet because I can wear them all day. They don't set off the alarms. I can drive in them, ride in them. That's awesome. I'm just ready to go. So, Indy Ridge,
raise the alarms like a steel toe or something.
All that stuff.
Oh, that's
yeah. And and so this has become, for a lot of instructors, I ended up plugging him into the Total Control Instructor cadre in the state of California. They have to do demos, and they're walking around a lot, so they have the same needs that I have. And what you'll find is a lot of people end up wearing just high top leather shoes because there's like nothing that does those two things don't play well together. I need a lot of protection, but I need fashion and comfort. Well, no, that really doesn't. It's one or the other. It's how is it armor? Oh, and it's bulletproof.
Yeah.
So Indy Ridge also makes. He's working on like hoodies that are going to be CE rated. So basically,
that's cool.
You can look like you're not wearing any gear and hit the deck and you're wearing gear.
Right.
I love that. Super cool guy. And Steve Lauria, and he's in California. So I wear these, and I love these. Now these, so pants. Again, so think all the wants and needs I have with these boots. Same thing with pants. If you wear a pair of jeans, you're gonna tear them, right? At some point. And I'm sliding in a parking lot at anywhere from 10 to 40 miles an hour, and I've torn I don't know how many pair of pants. This is a company called Resurgence Gear. These the guy that I reached out to, I got a pair of these. They're not cheap, but God, they were super comfortable, super protective. I think they hold the Guinness Book World Record for abrasion resistance, like dragging a body. It was a dummy drag of a certain weight behind a car for a certain distance before it actually damaged the pant.
Yeah.
And they're out of New Zealand, the guy. Super good company. So for the last, 3, 4, 5 months, I've been wearing these at competitions and training, and I just love them. So my goal is finding companies over time that I feel make good product, are good people, are motorcycle specific people, and that's what they do. So if you go and you buy, a motorcycle helmet, and I'll talk about this helmet for a second. I like the idea that you find a company that this is what they do, right? Jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Right.
So that's why I love certain things like wristwatches, guns, knives. It sounds silly, but generally those companies that make those things make one thing. They make a gun, and the gun it has one job. It does one thing. I love the singularity of it. Same with a wristwatch.
Right.
So this company, Resurgence Gear, they have some like shirts and hoodies and stuff, but what they make, what their claim is these jeans, and they have about 8 or 10 different styles. I have a few different ones, but I just love these. 2009, I was teaching a motor school. I bought a pair of gloves at the local BMW dealer. They were like $90. I'm like, all right, I'm going to invest in some good gloves. Went back to motor school training, and I would say about a day and a half, the threads started coming out, and I brought them back, and I was pissed. They were brand new, name brand. Well, they didn't have anything else other than these gloves, or a version of these gloves on their shelf. And I looked at these, and they were like soft, and I'm like, what are these, driving gloves? Are these golfing gloves? Those aren't going to protect me. But these ones I was looking at were like hard armored, and they were thicker. And so I said, well, just give me my money back. And he said, well, sorry, you're just getting a store credit. So the only other gloves I had were these. And I remember being pissed off when I put these on. Because I'm like, these aren't going to last through lunch.
Yeah. So
I bought them, or I traded them, and I finished motor school. And over the course of weeks, the stuff we do in motor school, after you pass the basic stuff, they're like, I'm having these people do all kinds of crazy stuff in our city, sliding their hand down big like rusty anchor chain while they're going downstairs, and just try to get them comfortable with their ability in the city, right? And these gloves didn't even blink, and these were Lee Park's design Deer Tour gloves.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, I don't know anything about anything, but they worked so good. I was so blown away with how well they worked. I sent an email to the owner, Lee Parks, to apologize to him for extremely negatively, my negative initial opinion of these. And so he calls me back. We have a lot in common. We're the same age. We grew up racing. He grew up in Michigan, ice racing and motocross. So we had a lot of commonality and parallel paths in life. But he started explaining to me about these gloves. And he's like, do you know, so first of all, these are deerskin. And I go, oh, okay, so why does that matter? He goes, well, it's on multiple levels stronger than cowhide. And so they can be thinner and still stronger, so you gain a lot of dexterity. Oh, okay. So they feel pretty good. I go, yeah, I've been writing citations in them and handcuffing, and now I've been wearing them. So I was on the SWAT team for 10 years. I started shooting my qual courses in my Lee Parks Design Deer Tours.
Wow.
Because my thinking was, when you make a traffic stop, you don't know what you're getting. You have no idea. You're putting a plate out, you're pulling some car over. And there are plenty of scenarios where somebody comes out shooting. So when you're rolling up to a traffic stop, two things happen in your brain. One, where am I going to make the stop? And you're looking for cover and concealment. And the second thing is gunfight, gunfight, gunfight. Better be in your brain. And you better be surprised when it doesn't happen. You don't want to be caught off guard, right? So I started wearing these and never took them off, but I wanted to make sure, can I draw, can I shoot well in the gloves? And sure enough, I could. So I was like, well, this is almost an officer safety thing.
That's amazing.
So then I started crashing in these and sliding quite a bit, and I was realizing they're really, really tough. So then he goes on to explain to me, he goes, well, first of all, did you know, so deerskin is not deerskin is not deerskin. Well, what do you mean? He goes, well, harvested deerskin versus deerskin captured in the wild deerskin's stronger, tougher, thicker. Also, deerskin in cold climates versus warm climates, different deerskin.
Right.
Okay. He goes, also,
makes sense.
Yeah. So these are things I didn't know. So he goes, all right. So also, if you look at the glove, you'll notice these are big, big pieces of deerskin, and there's very minimal amount of seam points. So there's less weak points.
Right.
I said, okay, well, that makes sense. And he goes, and the thread. I go, oh, is it like really strong nylon? Hopefully it is, right? The best, the strongest, carbon fiber. You know, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And he laughed and he goes, no. When you crash, the glove kind of explodes a little bit and it'll expand. And when it does that, if you have the wrong kind of thread that's holding the glove on, it won't move with the glove and it'll just tear like, Swiss cheese.
Right.
That thread will go right through and just blow your glove open.
Wow, that's a lot of science. Go ahead.
There's a lot to it. And then also the last thing he said is...
So what is he using for thread?
Well, I don't know what kind of thread it is, but it's made to expand and contract with the glove, when it has an impact.
And contracts, yeah.
And then if you notice, there aren't any vents. There's no ventilation in it, right?
Yeah. So
why is that? So they must be hot. No. Deerskin will actually sweat. So it kind of moves the sweat of the palm of your hands, and it will sweat through this glove. So this glove will actually work kind of like your own skin.
It breathes. That's
now,
awesome.
Yeah, so cowhide doesn't do that. So they have to ventilate cowhide or it'll just get swampy. But the problem now is that cowhide that's ventilated is only good for a certain window of temperature when it's not too cold and it's not too hot.
Right.
So I know I've rambled a lot about gloves, but I got to tell you.
It's a big deal. It's badass.
When you find something, and just to give you an idea, I've only scratched the surface of what Lee Parks has explained to me about these gloves, but I was like, dude, you've already told me so much I can never wear another pair of gloves. They just work amazing. This is an out seam. If you notice, the seams are on the outside.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit more comfortable than inseam. I often use inseam because from a trigger well standpoint, shooting, the inseam, it's just a little more streamlined of a glove.
Right.
But the outseams, these are insanely comfortable. Anyways, I can't say enough about these gloves. I just love these gloves.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Big fan.
I love gloves.
Yeah. And a lot of people wear those, they're kind of posh, right? But I'll tell you what, I beat the snot out of them. And I have a lot of police motor buddies. And I'm like, dude, you gotta get these gloves. It's really a buy once, cry once mentality. They're not cheap. They're about $130. But they'll last. And every minute you put them on, you're going to say.
That's the thing. It's all about quality.
Yeah.
I live by, I can't afford cheap things because then you're just constantly buying over and over and over again. And I'd rather buy really nice gloves one time and have them for, different bikes, different rides, different everything. And it's going to last for a long time. We
had a family friend who was a mechanic for Porsche. And he came over to the house and he was looking at my tools. And for my birthday, he came back and he brought me a Snap-on tool torque wrench. I was like, wow. And I said, well, I have Craftsman. And he's like, okay. And I go, well, what's Snap-on? Aren't they really expensive? And he goes, yeah, but they work. And I go, well, yeah, but my Craftsman, it's a lifetime guarantee.
Yeah.
Breaks, you can go fix it. And he goes, buddy, I don't have time for anything to break. It can't break. I need it to work all the time, every time. And that's why I have Snap-on. And he wasn't cocky about it, but I thought, he's like, that's how I make my money.
Yeah.
I need it to just work.
What a fucking...
It doesn't help me to turn, to get 50 free sockets that keep breaking.
Walk off the fucking job.
Yeah.
Socket broke.
Going upstairs again. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So I thought,
good fucking point, man.
Yeah, it was a great point. It was one of those lessons. Unfortunately, my pocketbook at the time didn't allow me to continue on with that philosophy, but eventually I kind of got there.
Yeah.
I still have some Snap-on or some Craftsman tools in my toolbox. But
no, we all do, but obviously you do notice that when you buy higher quality gloves, like we've all bought gloves, and within 6 months they turn into shit.
Yeah.
Different styles, boots, shoes, everything, and now I don't know if it's an age thing or a finance thing, or I don't know what it is, or both, but you get to a point where you're like, I'm not gonna buy that.
Right.
It's a great deal. It's cheap, but I'm not gonna buy that.
Right.
Sometimes you're like, it's such a great deal. It makes sense. Like, don't do it.
So.
Especially if it's something you don't want, to get.
Right.
Like you're just getting it for the deal.
Sure.
Yeah. No, the gloves are badass. Love the boots. So again, everything, and I guess for this conversation to be fair, because you do so much training, we're talking more about street riding gear.
Yeah. I think that's safe to say.
We're looking for comfort, quality, and of course style.
Yeah, like dexterity and safety. Those things don't usually go together, right? I will say though that airbag. So I started getting into airbag vests. I crashed on my dirt bike on a track, ended up with rotator surgery, and I'm like, you know what? An airbag vest. They have off road. Alpine Stars makes a Tech Air off road. I'm looking at it going, my God, that would have helped me. That would have saved me thousands in, and not only that, but just you tear a rotator, that's a long way back. So that, and you said we talk about mostly street riding, and I mentioned that full suit. That is a Tech Air 7X, that airbag right there. Yeah. That thing, I'll just tell you, is really, really cool for two reasons. So I rode down here to hang out with you, but this Tech Air 7X, this thing will also go in my Mythos full suit.
Yeah.
So it goes under a jacket, or it can go inside of a road race suit, which is really, really cool.
And you were talking about it has 2 cartridges, so
so
you can pop it. So if you're on a track.
Yeah, so if you look at some airbag vests, and also ones kind of in the past, if it deploys and it saves you, great. But that means you're kind of done. You got to send it back in and get it recharged, serviced, inspected, all that stuff. And that's usually like $150. This is a newer line, this Tech Air 7X plasma. And you see there's like 2 kind of bulges down the back.
Yeah.
That has 2 cartridges. So it'll do 2 deployments. You crash in it and it will save your butt. And then it deflates over the course of, I think, 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And then boom, you're back out going. If you crash again, same thing, it'll deploy again. But now you can just buy cartridges and put them in yourself. And I think I want to say it's like 4 or 5 deployments. It will give you a yellow light to say, hey, you should send it back. You should have it serviced and inspected. But
there's an option.
You could put 100 cartridges in there and keep deploying it. It'll work. And then they give you another little tool that you can screw in and pump it up yourself and just see, is it holding air? Is it damaged? Is it working? And if it's holding air, the tool that they give you to kind of inspect it, you're good to go. So I love that. And again, the versatility. Every time I go on the street, I wear that. It's easy to put on. It's easy to use. It's a USB-C to plug in. It's dummy proof. And it's really, as far as comfort, not an issue. Now, I don't wear that first gear parking lot police training. Right. I just don't. Yeah. But if I'm going to be out in traffic, intermingling with people and getting on the freeways and stuff, absolutely, that's on my back. I mean, this place was a little over a mile from me, and I threw it on.
Does this, it has no electronics, does it?
In what way?
Like, do you have to charge it or anything like that?
Well, you have to charge it for sure, yeah, and it'll arm itself. So, yeah, you charge it.
It has an app and...
Yeah, it has an app and all that
Bluetooth.
stuff.
Okay, cool.
But so what's cool, so you just put these together.
There it is. Oh.
Yeah.
So it activates once you... That's my favorite feature, dude.
Yeah, so now it's armed. No, that's
Holy
great.
shit, that's my favorite feature.
Yeah.
Because we picked up a couple of these. It was a different brand, and one of the guys took it off.
See, really quick, look, I just Velcroed it, and now that light's off. So now it's not just sitting there,
That's amazing.
standby, wearing the battery down.
Yeah, so a buddy of mine took his off and just put it in the saddlebag. He hits a bump. It was, because he had to do it hard.
Deployed.
Yeah, but the fact that this turns off with just one, snapping,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Well, the other thing that's crazy too,
That's awesome.
if you look at Alpine Stars as a company, they're in every form of motorcycle racing, and they're, just to give you an idea, they're Tech Air off road. They've been working with the Paris-Dakar Rally riders for years to develop it. So a lot of people think, it's an airbag. So like originally there were cords, and so it would just, it was like a ripcord.
Right, it was a cable you do your handlebar or something.
This thing has all kinds of algorithm, all kinds of math for rotations, speeds, and I can't speak to all.
The technology says, based off some other brands that I was reading on, but I'm sure this is even, because this is newer, they say it's faster than the blink of an eye. It responds faster than the blink of an eye. Once it knows your angle and you're going at a certain speed and this, that, it,
But so what Alpine Stars has done, here's the interesting thing to me, is they say, okay, because they have a Tech Air 3, which is just a vest. They have a Tech Air 5. They have a 7. They have a 10, I think, still. They have an off-road. They have a motocross, off-road versus motocross. All of those things, all of those airbags have different math in them, because you're riding on a track versus motocross. Everything's a little bit different. So if you took that and you went on a motocross track, it would deploy potentially just from hitting a big jump.
Right.
So they've developed the software, the math, and the vest itself specific to what you're doing.
Yeah,
and the beautiful thing there is, when you are doing that thing, and in this, by the way, you can switch it from street to track, and then the thresholds are a little bit greater. So a lot of their street-based ones will allow street and track. The off-road has like a rally mode and kind of like an adventure mode. So it also, if you put it in rally mode, those Paris-Dakar rally guys, if you've watched them, they're wearing the Alpine Stars vest, and you cannot compete in rally if you aren't wearing an airbag vest now. Wow. Same with MotoGP. MotoGP guys, Tech Air vests on a lot. I don't know if all of those or most of those guys. And you can't race. You can't be on the track without an airbag vest anymore. Yeah. I think somebody told me that when that deploys, the back protector is like 20 conventional back protectors when it expands. Like, just imagine that.
That's insane, yeah.
So, huge fan of that. And I just love the philosophy behind it. And talk about a company that has access to all the top racers in every segment of, rally, motocross, road racing. They're just connected to everybody. So the math has been done, the development has been done at the highest level, which is cool. So I just love that. When the light comes on, talk about feeling a little bit safer, but more important, I would wear a full suit on the track, and you're going to wear a thick back brace. You got to wear a big chest protector if you plan on hitting the deck, and I always plan on hitting the deck. So that thing is actually more streamlined and more loose and comfortable than a traditional old back protector and chest protector that's got way less protection than that does, because it's the air that's just waiting to go, and while it's not there, it's a little more kind of conformed to me. So I like that.
Yeah, not only that, but again, just the basics. Because it's more of the, what is it, the D9? What do they call this? The rubber?
Right.
Because it's more molded to the body,
yeah.
I'm sure that it's better for when you're in an accident, you're more protected, versus when you have strict things, like a plate, it's holding you in place, and as you're hitting, your body's still rattling all over the place.
Yeah.
Would you not say? Or,
yeah. No, I think I would agree with you for sure.
Yeah, so again, just the technology.
That's crazy.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a few buddies, again, most of my friends are off-road guys, and we've all been broken and beaten, and, it just is what it is, right? Show me anybody that has any riding and racing experience for any length that doesn't have 20 war stories, right? It just is. But when stuff like this started coming out, I was MFing Alpine Stars. Like, where were you guys 30 years ago? You know,
Yeah.
I could have saved a lot of medical bills and trips. You know, I wouldn't know. The downside is I wouldn't know that beautiful image that I got looking out the bay door window of a helicopter going to the ER. I wouldn't be able to have that nice vantage point. You know?
Yeah.
So I guess silver linings, right?
Yeah.
You get that.
Let's talk about the helmet now. Typically, people have they have trouble finding the right helmet. Most helmets are, back in the days. Now I get it. I know what's going on, but back in the days they were heavy, they were uncomfortable, a lot of pain on your neck, especially if you were riding all day. You usually have to get a full face, or you had to get the little fucking half shell.
Yeah.
This piece of tech is, I mean, and all those different helmets still exist. But this kind of solves a lot of issues.
Yeah, so I will just say as an underlying thing, some helmets just don't fit some heads.
Right.
And helmet companies, this is the world according to me. What the hell do I know? But in my experience, I have some friends that have more of a round helmet, and some companies are more round helmet philosophy. Like Arai helmets, from what I understand, if you look at an Arai helmet, it's very round. I don't necessarily know that means the helmet inside is very round versus more of an oval, but the philosophy is when it doesn't have a lot of edges and it's very round, it can take blows. You don't get so much impact from sort of a side blow. The helmet can kind of juke and move around stuff. But I've had friends put helmets on that go, man, this particular brand doesn't fit me. So
right.
If you
like jeans,
different
brands of jeans and shirts and whatever.
Like for motorcycle boots, I like Alpine Stars. They're a little narrow. I wear Garnet boots. Garnet are a little bit wider boot, and so they just fit my foot better.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
They're both top
and
tier.
the helmets is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
But so there's really two areas for, and again, when I was looking for a helmet, there's two key areas from a police standpoint. Above and beyond safety, obviously safety and DOT and all that, but two big challenges. When you wear a helmet every day, all day, especially modulars, which are generally a little bit heavier, over time, your neck can get sore. And I've had a few buddies that have had neck surgery. I've known motors that have retired medically from neck injury, specifically from just repetitive use of having a big heavy helmet on all the time.
Wow.
So that's one thing. So, okay, well, now we're talking about a light helmet. We want to find a light helmet. And a lot of agencies are you got to have a modular because you're dealing with the public. And if you've ever worn a modular, I consider it like a microwave. You didn't know you needed it until you got one.
Right.
Once you can put that up and you can mess with your wallet and gas the bike up easier and talk to people and get a little bit of air conditioning, it's fantastic. But the other problem, though, is noise. So most motors, if you ask them a question, the first thing they're going to say to you is, "What? I can't hear you," because their ears are shot. Because for years and years, they had 3/4 helmets. You're going 90 or 100 in a pursuit. You're trying to listen to dispatch. You got the radio cranked up so you can kind of hear your ears, not to mention wind noise.
Right.
So it's just crazy. So you want a helmet that is light, but you want a helmet that is really well insulated so your hearing isn't so beat on. Well, again, just like we talk about safety and dexterity, those two things don't play well together. I want it really light but really quiet inside. Well, carbon fiber tends to be louder helmets. Generally, you'll hear that. So wear ear protection. Well, that can be not only challenging, there's a billion challenges with that, because now I'm not going to hear anything in situational awareness, blah, blah, blah. So, and remember I talked to you this idea about one company that does one thing really well, singularly focused, that's it.
Yeah.
So this helmet in particular, and this company is Schuberth. Everybody's probably heard of Schuberth.
Of course.
This particular helmet is called a C5 carbon. And why that matters to me is because as a C5 carbon, it's a carbon modular helmet. So in my experience, compared to other carbons that I've worn, it's really, really light. Compared to other helmets that aren't carbon, it's like half a pound lighter. And we talk about you're wearing this thing all day, every day. When I teach, when I'm doing clinics or demos, I'm wearing the helmet all the time. It's very different than civilian style riding. But when you put this thing on and you close it up, it feels like a full face track helmet that's nice and snug, pretty damn quiet, and so when this thing closes up, it's really secure and you're really in there in the helmet. But it's quiet, which is, again, those two things don't usually go well together. And I just love that about this helmet. The added bonus that I've been super impressed with is that it is designed and built for communications equipment to be plugged right into it, literally plugged right into it. So it comes with speakers already wired into it.
And then you just buy, it's Cardo, we said, right?
It's Cardo. You buy the kit from Schuberth and, like, see that boom mic right there?
Yeah.
I literally moved a little rubber door and plugged it, snapped it right in. And then this is literally snapped right in. And you can unplug that and it's like a
remote control.
Remote. And then the very back of it just snaps it right in. And that's where you charge it and plug it. So.
And it feels like it's less than 2 pounds?
I don't know what his actual grams are, but I can tell you it's light. It's, for as light as it is, you can't believe it's as quiet as it is.
Yeah, and the quality build, it feels amazing.
Yeah, it's so, speaking of Schuberth and the quality of this particular helmet, the C5 Carbon, so Schuberth is one of very few companies that are actually allowed to make helmets for Formula One. So, and I think Max Verstappen, they make his helmet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the driver. But Schuberth makes those helmets, those Formula One helmets, in a specific area. This particular helmet, the C5 Carbon, is one of the only other ones made there. So, not to say that any of the other helmets don't get the attention and detail that they deserve. This one, though, does get a little bit heightened, a little bit extra care and detail and time and energy. In the same place the F1 helmets are built. And I laugh every time I put it on my head. The thing I love about, too, how many times have you worn a helmet that's, you're like, okay, this feels secure and it's snug, and then about 20 minutes into your ride, your head starts pounding.
Yeah.
So,
or it's just too loud in the helmet.
Or it's just loud.
Yeah.
So when I first put this on...
Does this tint?
It has a feature right here.
Oh, it has the additional visor?
It has the additional visor. So this is not a
transparent...
whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
I'm going to butcher it anyway, so I'm just going to, what's the saying? It's better to be thought of as a fool than open your mouth and prove it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to shut up on that one, all right?
I like that one.
But when I first put this helmet on, I'm like, oh,
Transition
wow.
lens. Transition
lens, yes. It's secure, it's quiet, it's comfortable, but it was snug enough that I was like, damn it, I know it. It's going to hurt. It's going to start hurting. And I did a 2-hour ride. I was up at a police training up in Boise last week. And part of it is about 125 motors, and I'm doing some clinics and demos with them. And we went on a long ride, sort of a memorial ride up to this beautiful lake. And I put this on, nice and snug. I'm just going, oh, I think I'm going to probably get a headache. Never got a headache.
That's amazing.
It just felt great the whole time. And listen, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And I think as the older I get, the more I start to try and find those little teeny moments in my life where I can be a giddy, stupid 12-year-old kid like I was. Like, you remember how excited you used to get about the silliest little crap?
Yeah.
This is something that I'm excited like a silly little kid. And I giggle in my helmet when I'm wearing it. I'm listening to a little bit of music while I'm in the procession of guys. And I'm just like, God, just one of those things that's come along that ticked all the boxes.
Well, I'm going to add to that. The reason for that is because people will spend. People spend money on helmets, and it's a bad fit, or and then return policies are so screwed up.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck with certain things, and then you're just like, one, it's inconvenient. 2, the return policy sucks. 3, you're legitimately stuck with it for 2-3 years, and now it's like, fuck, I hate wearing this helmet, and it'll kill your mood in the sense of you don't want to ride as much, you don't want to ride as far, you'll turn around, and then when you find a helmet that fits like what you're describing in your situation, you want to ride longer, you want to stay out longer, you want to keep it on longer. It changes everything. I think a helmet's the most important thing.
I found when I was doing, so when I do these clinics at these competitions, they're about 3 or 4 day long events. And then part of the day, they'll have a Quinn Redeker clinic, and I have my own area, and I'll talk about whatever technique stuff I am covering. And after that happened, I just left it on. I just left it on, talk in the helmet, because I'm going to ride a little, I'm going to talk a little, and I'm just like, man, it's so comfortable. I'm just going to leave it on my head for the 45 minutes that I'm going to be riding and talking instead of taking it off, talking to people, putting it back on. And trust me, other helmets I would absolutely just be like, I'm going to get this off my head.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as, because it's just hurting. It's just giving me a headache, and I can't think now, Yeah. So I've been...
it changes your mood.
Yeah.
Whole mood.
I've been hugely... I don't want to say surprised, because Schuberth has a reputation. They make good stuff. But just really excited about what it's provided for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure Schuberth, the U.S. would say, duh, of course, we're Schuberth, Yeah. And so maybe that's accurate.
Yeah, no, it's a great helmet. Any other safety tips that you would recommend? I mean, there's so many, and we've covered a lot, but like...
I mean, listen, all I could really tell you from a safety standpoint is learn as much as you can and ride as humbly as you can. I've probably told you this, and maybe I said this in one of your other stories, and if I did when we sat before, just act surprised, all right? I'm in a pursuit, and I'm riding, and I'm winning competitions. This is like 2010 or 11. I'm winning events everywhere. I'm like, man, I'm good. I got this guy beat. My ego was through the roof. Yeah. I know I can handle anything. And I'm following this car. My button to push for dispatch on the handlebar was broken, so I'm just riding with one hand on the bar, pushing my handheld down here, putting out radio traffic, and just kind of downshifting it, upshifting without the clutch, and because I'm so good.
Right.
Well, at some point in all that, Mr. Badass, me thinking, the guy turned around and started trying to run me down.
Oh my God.
And I realized, I'm effectively on a bicycle right here, and that's a big heavy car. I'm going to get creamed. And it instantly changed I went from the bull to the clown, right? The rodeo clown. And I was like, it was the
or the hunter to the hunted.
Dude, the epiphany happened all in one fell swoop, where I was like, oh my God, I might die right here. And of course, then we just played chicken, trying to keep away. I just tried to keep away from the guy, because he just realized, if I just take this motor out, I'm free and clear. So he just did everything he could to try to take me down. And you can keep away from a car, but you better, you're right. I mean, if you don't, and so ever since that happened, I realized, wow, it really has nothing to do with how good you are. If you're going to start doing Mr. Cocky Cool Guy, your days are numbered. Because maybe this scenario isn't going to happen to you, but you're going to bump into something, and you're going to go, I got this handled, and you won't have it handled. So I continue to try to learn and discover technique, all for the purposes of being safer. And I can say this with a straight face and look at you. If me and you and 10 of your listeners went on a ride, I would hope, and I would be proud if one of them said, man, he's a good rider. I was expecting to see more out of him. That would make me proud of myself, because that would say, I don't know if he had more. He sure as hell didn't show us. It's
a mystery.
And that tells me I kept the lid on it. I kept my ego in check, and I rode smart and careful. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a competition, if I'm on a track, closed course,
controlled
environment, I'm going to push as hard as I can, and I'm going to crash and crash and crash. And that's why this stuff matters, So that goes back to my judgment versus skill. So I just think all this stuff is hugely important, but it will not save you from bad judgment, And that is my tip. I don't think I have to tell anyone who's been riding a motorcycle in the last 10 years, 99% of the driving public is distracted.
Out of their mind.
Everybody's wandering around on their phone, blah, blah, blah. And I think everybody's kind of used to it at this point. I haven't experienced any self-driving scenarios that I've heard about,
I think it's amazing. I can't wait for it I was so against self-driving cars. I can't wait for it. We're too distracted.
Yeah. Well,
Not we, but like the public. Well, yeah, we, the public, are too distracted. You got emotional problems, anger problems, depressed problems, bill problems, girlfriend problems, lover problems. Like, everybody's so distracted. I split through lanes through downtown LA or Los Angeles, and it's if I look at your rearview mirror or your side mirror, I'm supposed to see your face. This thing's looking at the sky, it's looking at the floor, people are doing makeup, people are eating, people are smoking weed, people are smoking cigarettes, people are drunk. I mean, it is insane. I can't wait for a car. And here's the thing, and I jump into this conversation. This is I'm very crazy about this topic, but people are like, oh yeah, but self-driving cars and accidents. Here's the deal: when a self-driving car gets into an accident, that accident will never repeat ever again.
True.
It goes into a database, beep, 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 beep.
Right. They figure out what happened.
They figure out what happened, how did it happen, when it happened, what street, was it a pothole, was it not a pothole. It has infrared, it has sonar, it has cameras. That's better than a fucking human? Get out of here.
Well, and to your point, how about, I was thinking about this as far as self-driving cars. How about 2 a.m, a bar gets out and there's 20 super sloshed people. I would much rather gamble on the technology of the self-driving car than the guy who's 4 times the legal limit trying to, because he doesn't like where his cool truck's parked in this bad downtown area. He's going to gamble and drive home.
Forget that. I mean, Mythbusters. Remember the show Mythbusters?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They did an episode one time where it's like, what's more dangerous, texting or drinking? So they did a private track, and they didn't want to break any laws, but they got the girl that was on the show. They got her to like 0.07 or something like that.
Okay.
0.07.
So not that
in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And she drove through the cones perfect. They had like a whatever. And then they had like 3 other people texting or responding to text driving through cones. Way worse. And that happens every single moment.
Oh yeah.
Let alone, you're right. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I'm talking about just the daily...
Just the stuff that we are now familiar with and accepting as a society.
Right. Even
though it's illegal.
Even as a child or when we were younger kids, it was like, oh man, I want to go to driver's ed. I want to be responsible. I'm going to learn all safety belt. You paid attention. Kids don't care right now to learn how to drive a car.
No.
When Elon Musk right now released the new Tesla taxi that's just going to be closed off, 2-door, and you can buy it. So I think he's for like $35,000. You can buy it.
I haven't heard about this.
Oh, dude, it was all over the news. So for I think it comes out in 2 years. He had it in San Francisco, and it was like giving everybody rides. So you go into this thing, and it's like you just sit down. I don't even think you can see out the windows. You can just work on your phone, and you buy it for $35,000. It drives you anywhere. Now, when you're home and you're not using it, you can activate the Tesla Uber app, and it's going to go work for you, and it's going to pay itself off.
Oh
while it's driving, and then when you need it, pick me up and picks you up, and it's driving.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it is
makes sense.
It is so convenient. And then here's another thing. Tell me what you think about this. I've been sorry, guys. I've been saying this so much, but I strongly do believe this, and I think this is the craziest thing I've said in 24 years of riding. I feel safer. This is the first time I've ever said this.
Uh-oh. I gotta be careful. Let me get my poker face ready for what you're about to say. I don't know what it is. Go.
I feel safer riding a motorcycle in LA than a car. And the reason for this is we're talking about people's driving.
Right.
Forget people's driving. People's attitudes and confidence when they're behind the wheel. You get into a traffic situation where it's just bumper to bumper. You're not escaping that.
That's true.
And then God forbid, you get in front of somebody that he didn't want you. He was on his phone, and now you got in front of him. And
Right.
Beep, and he starts honking at you. Now you got this asshole that's losing his shit, and you got this other truck that's coming in, and then CHP closed the road, and it's traffic hour, and then you got a dinner, and you're losing. People are losing their fucking mind. On a motorcycle, you're like, no. You're just...
Yeah, you can definitely... You can sidestep all of that.
So much.
I don't
You could see an asshole and just be like, dude... I'll see a car, I'll be splitting lanes, I'll see a car, he'll start making a right, and it'll put on his turn signal. I'll be like, dude, go ahead. And if he doesn't do it, I'll go 2 lanes down and go past them. Like, you just avoid so much now. But that's my opinion. And I feel it so much.
I don't disagree with you. I will say I was just helping my nephew move into a new apartment down in LA. And man, the roads are brutal.
They're brutal.
You
That's
know?
the other thing.
I'm not talking about just like the big metal plates, all the grooves and all the construction
Uneven
and some of the
ground.
massive potholes. Like, you know, I talked about off-road experience. Just drive down LA, drive around in there. You're going to get some off-road experience for sure. Being on a main road, it's, you know, I think you definitely need to have some skills to safely navigate
Yeah.
some of these roads that are out and about, you know.
One of the wildest cities that I used to live in that helped me ride was San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
I lived up on Twin Peaks and stuff, and I mean, you get to a red light and you're like
Right.
this, dude. What is it? And now the newer bikes, they have hill stop,
Hill
which is
stop.
amazing.
Yeah.
But back in the days, you didn't have no hill stop.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. All the tech of gear is amazing, but all the motorcycle tech is insane.
So the BMW, we ride the RT platform, RTP, please, but it's an RT. It's a sport touring civilian bike.
Right.
It's a 1250. This year, 2025, we're releasing the 1300. It came out in the GSA last year. Now it's going to be in the RT platform.
Badass. I love it.
You know, more horsepower, lighter weight, lots of cool tech. But yeah, it's got the hill start. So basically, what you do is you're on a steep hill. You can just squeeze the front brake and then let it go, and it just works like an emergency brake. And then you squeeze it and it'll come off. It's got radar, so when you hit your cruise control, it will keep whatever distance you need. It'll have emergency braking, which I don't know that I want that. That kind of, you know,
No.
I drive one of the X5 Beamers that has that, and you know, sometimes you know when somebody's turning and you got your timing right, and it'll just beep beep beep, and all of a sudden the brakes come on. I'm like, whoa!
Yeah.
But on a motorcycle, that's
kind of scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like hitting a false neutral, and it wants to throw you forward. We'll see how that goes, and I'm sure a lot of that can just be turned off permanently in the computer. But
In the settings, yeah.
there's a lot of the suspension is not only compression and your preload, but it also affects your ride height and your angle. So your rake and trail adjustment, when you stiffen up your suspension, you're going to get more ground clearance and a steeper rake and trail for sharper steering. That's crazy.
No, that's crazy. And then BMW also has the link braking, where when you squeeze your brakes, it'll do a 50-50 or a 30-70, and it'll adjust it to wherever it needs.
Yeah.
Then you got speed shifting with the BMWs, where you don't even have to hit the clutch. You can just go shift through the gears, pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, it's just like a paddle shift.
Just a paddle shift. Not even a paddle shift. You're just, I guess.
Well, yeah, you're just, it's called shift assist. You can just hold the thing full throttle and just click through the gears.
And it's smooth.
And you can downshift too.
Exactly. But for downshift, you got to turn the throttle. You should be off the throttle.
Well, if you're off the throttle and you're slowing down and you click down, it'll blip it. It'll blip the throttle to click it into the gears, so the synchros are all dialed. It's amazing.
A mutual buddy of mine that you know of, they just gave him an Indian Challenger. And this thing has, in the mirrors, notification. It has the LED yellow lights, notifications of cars behind you.
Wow.
So, like a car has in the mirrors, this has in the mirrors. I'm like, are you kidding, dude?
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild. And then the cruise control that you were talking about, what is it called? It's adjustable speed.
Yeah, well, it has radar.
Yeah, it has a radar, so it just...
So it knows.
It just adjusts the speed to the car in front of you.
Yeah.
If you have no car, it just continues. No, technology, it's oh man.
Obviously, and you know, I'm old, so I'm like, at what point are they just gonna not let us, like, they're gonna make things so safe that motorcycles just won't even make sense to legislate to be even legal. That's of course what my stupid brain.
Right.
But I'll probably destroy my body by then. They'll even not be able to ride by then. So.
And random, because I'm so random.
Yeah.
At what point did you call yourself old, and what makes you feel that you're old?
I remember.
Especially now.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Pardon my gum. So as I said, I was on the SWAT team for 10 years, and you can be on the SWAT team as long as you want. You just have to qual, and qualifications are firearms. That's handgun, entry weapon. I was a sniper, so the sniper rifle too. You have to shoot and qual and everything. I was very good. I was one of our instructors for firearms, so I was comfortable with the shooting. The physical testing, we followed an FBI test where you had to do, basically it's a half-mile run. Sounds simple. It had to be, I forget what the times were now, but you do one lap, but within that lap you're doing push-ups, and then you do a body drag, and then more push-ups, and you finish, and it's a gasser. And if you don't pass, and then you do all your gear on, and you do from laying on your stomach with a weapon, go, and you sprint. It's like a 50-yard sprint. Then you have to put, I want to say it's like 50 or 70 pounds of gear on you, and you have to do at least two dead hang pull-ups with an extra 70 pounds or something. And I was able to do all that. And at 50, I don't know how long I had been on there by now. By then, quite a while. But at 50, I was afforded an extra 15 seconds, which my ego was like, screw that. I'm not using that 15 seconds. But I'll say it got harder and harder and harder, especially the workouts in the gym. A lot of our guys were like certified CrossFit instructors. Some of them were former professional athletes, whether it was football or basketball, competitive triathletes. These guys were beasts, and they were 30,
right,
28, 32. And they all were about one-upping each other. I mean, this is like an alpha male hotspot, right? You're in the gym before SWAT training, and everyone's killing it. And so that was when I started using the phrase in my brain. I was like, you know what? That was pretty good, Quinn, for your age. You're in pretty good shape for your age. I was about 50 when for your age started coming in. And then another weird thing happened. So I'm 55 now, and I still exercise and, blah, blah, blah. But in my early 50s, as I was still on the SWAT team, we were pushing so hard. Like, we'd have contests where you'd have a group of 3 guys, and you had to knock out like 300 pull-ups, 500 push-ups, X amount of squats. You'd round robin between each other. And so you're trying to do like 20 pull-ups at a time. And there was a time when I thought, gosh, at my age, I could have a fucking heart attack. Like it's kind of a weird thing. I'm comfortable pushing my body,
So you're like, wait a minute, yeah.
To where my heart rate's screaming. I'll suffer through it, but I'm like, man, I'm at that age where I could maybe just die, which is weird, Yeah. I didn't think about that in my 30s, even my 20s or 30s. You just like, you're gassed. Now you're like, well, I can suffer the pain of it, but am I gonna die?
Yeah. So
that's when I started feeling old, being around these young guys that were just beasts. Although I could do it, they'd all smoke me. They were all respectful of the old guy, which, I'm happy to even be in the room with them, to be honest. But yeah, early 50s is when I was like, man, I'm getting older.
That's crazy too, because that's you comparing yourself to the best of the best of the